one never sees me. I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me? I'm losing every battle.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Krista Fee and the Battle2be podcast. And I'm super excited to be here with you guys today after a crazy, crazy day. In case you can't see, I am completely lobsterified. We spent the day out at Camp Hope, which is a long-term recovery center for veterans who are suffering from PTSD. And we got to barbecue with the guys out there and just spend some fun time talking about Jeeps and the things that they like to do in their free time and their experiences and everything that they're going through. And it was a phenomenal, phenomenal day. If you don't know about Camp Hope and you happen to be in the Texas area, please do look them up. They are amazing and they can always use some support, some resources. Their pantries always need coffee. I'm told those boys love their coffee, so they're always taking donations. Check them out. Don't forget about them. And tonight we have an amazing, amazing guest, and she is the first of a string, actually, of people using art as a form of healing. So I want you all to give a really warm welcome to Emily Jo Lyon. And she's going to tell us the same way that we always do. She's going to tell us a little bit about who she is as a person and what she loves to do and her family. And she's going to tell us what she's been through. And she's going to tell us the amazing things that she's doing to turn her trauma into hope and healing for others. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome Emily and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I'm originally, I was born in Texas, been a little bit everywhere. So I moved from Texas when I was about 2 years old. We were in Iowa for about 7 years. My dad was a director of like teen boys there. So he had a troubled teens home, needed help young men kind of get back on their feet, get out from, drugs and gangs or whatever they were doing. So we lived there for a while. Then my dad decided, he was called to be a pastor. So we went to Michigan for 2 years. Then from there, went to Indiana and was there for about 10 or 11 years or so. Went to college in Florida. Kind of just been all over the place, used to having to make friends and get out there and meet people. But now we found out last, I think it was 2019, sometime in July. My husband and I, we got married in July, and after our honeymoon, we came back and found out that his mother had cancer. So we kind of made a big decision. We were going to stay in Indiana for a while and kind of get our savings and like get on our feet. Being a young newlywed couple, it's never easy for anyone, right? There's a lot of adjustments and so on. But we moved within just a few months of finding that out. So we're in Texas now, and we love it. It's been really good to be with the family, and I think that we made a really good decision to come up here. I'm very much into art. I have one piece right here that I'll probably discuss with you guys a little further later on in the interview. But art is how I cope with change ever since I was a little kid. And it's something that takes up most of my time. I do photography, which I really enjoy. And that's also something, just finding beauty in small things, it's just fun. I don't know what else to really tell you about myself, but there you go.
Perfect. And I didn't tell you guys, Emily's one of the few guests, because I have guests from all over the world, that happens to be in my neck of the woods. So we had the privilege of getting to go and have coffee together and get to know each other a little bit. So I actually get to know her a little bit more intimately than most of my guests. And this girl is amazing and she's wonderful and you guys will love her. So tell us a little bit about your story, what you've been through and what your struggles have been.
Okay. So I haven't actually spoken out about my past yet. This is something that I've kept on the down low for a while as I've tried to process things that have happened. And so this will be my first time speaking about my past and things that I've struggled with. So, just be patient with me as I kind of share this, because it is for me, a very difficult story and things to tell, and to know that I'm sharing this and some people won't like it is a lot of pressure. So, but I want to share this because I feel like it's important. So I grew up in a very religious home. And I will say that the majority of the things that I was taught and the things that I did in that religious home were good and were healthy. So I do want to put a disclaimer that not all Christians, not all of these certain, Christian groups, they're not bad. There's a lot of really good people with a lot of really good intentions, but I just so happened to have some people that were not good people, and some things happened that were not okay. So growing up, I was taught that the men were the head of the home, and that we were supposed to have hold our pastors in high respect, our staff members that were male in high respect. And but I feel like it was a little more than that. It was a little more on the verge of like just kind of strange, because we had this pastor, we had a mega church in Indiana, and I'm not going to go into specifics. I don't think that's important. But this mega church, the pastor there was like he was worshipped. Just anywhere, anything he did, had huge conferences. People would come from literally around the world to see him preach. And when I was a junior in high school, we found out that he had raped a friend in my class and had taken her over state lines, and was extremely shocking, considering that, you think that church is a safe place. You think that all the people there have really good intentions. And this began to kind of like shake my entire worldview of what I was in and what was going on, because it felt so wrong. And the fact that many of the church members were blaming the girl, which was sickening to me, knowing who she was and that she was in my class, and just mind-blowing, because the pastor's always right, and no one wanted to, come to face the fact that he was a predator, so that was a lot, because it's not just like, oh, this is a pastor. This is someone you believe in, you trust full-heartedly. The amount of church services that I went to and listened to this guy preach and believing every word he said and worshiping this dude, like thinking he was like the best thing that ever happened to mankind. So this isn't just like, oh yeah, this guy did whatever. This was like someone that, held very, very dear to me and to the church. So it was kind of shocking. And that kind of started making me question things, specifically the way that women were treated in this circle. We were meant to, which my parents will say that this isn't something that they taught, and it wasn't. My parents were very balanced, good people, and I love them dearly. But sometimes they just weren't around to know what I was being taught. You know what I'm saying? So what I was taught was that women were meant to have and take care of a family. They were meant to maybe be a pianist in the church, a Sunday school teacher, a choir leader, but they were not allowed to preach. They were not allowed to lead unless it was leading other women or children, which was hard for me because I'm a very strong person, and I had people in my class that would talk to me about things that were going on at home or things they were struggling with, and looked up to me in certain regards. And so to be a young lady and to be told that I can't lead anything or that I'm not supposed to be a strong personality just didn't meld well with who I am. So I feel like growing up now and seeing the way that women were treated in that circle was not okay. And finding that I have a very low self-worth for a very long time and not realizing where it was coming from. So that's kind of one fairly large piece that has been a struggle for me. And then having so much going on with what I was taught, having two different ideals in your brain at the same time, it's very difficult, right? So I'm being told one thing, but I believe and I am another, and having to push down who I am to fit into a mold I don't fit into for years and years and years, and coming out of that and realizing that I don't even know who I am because I bent who I was to fit the mold that everyone expected me to be. So as a teenager, as a young person, I thought I knew who I was and I enjoyed what I was doing and I was a very happy young lady. And then this big event happened in my life and I started questioning everything. And then it turned into, okay, so if I don't believe these things anymore, who am I? Because this is all I knew to be, which then leaves you in a very scared place. Because who are you? What are your standards? What are your beliefs? What are your core values? And that kind of takes you into a very dark place because you don't know. So I've struggled very heavily with anxiety and depression. My therapist has diagnosed me with an anxiety disorder, PTSD, and major depressive disorder. So, and at first we talked about this a little bit, Krista, that I didn't want to believe that something like that was wrong with me because I knew something was wrong, but I didn't feel like I deserved to have a title to it. Like I felt like it wasn't that big of a deal. So like, does that make sense? You know what I'm trying to say?
I see that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm my suffering isn't big enough to justify a title. My suffering isn't there are so many other people that have it worse than I have it. So you can't I can't claim that. That's not mine. So yeah, I mean, there's even a sense of worthiness in whether we get to claim our pain, whether exactly. our suffering is legitimate enough for that.
Yep. Yep. And being in the ministry, everyone else came first, so I never really focused on myself because I was always, helping my dad, going visiting, or I was going soul winning, or I was helping other people with this or that, which I mean is an excellent thing. Like there's nothing wrong with helping others, but there's something wrong with it when your subconscious is doing it so you don't have to deal with what's going on in your own head. Because that point is just a crutch and you're just helping others to escape your own mind. And that's not healthy. Anyway, and then in college, I had I was in a very religious college. And again, most of these things I can agree with and I can believe in, but there were some things going on there that just didn't make sense. Things that are being taught about the women specifically. And I keep going back to that because I'm huge about women being strong and bold. My photography business is Lyon Media, bold and beautiful. And that's something I feel very strongly in is treating women with respect and pushing them to be their best selves and allowing them to be who they are because I wasn't allowed to be for so long. but during college, knowing that I wasn't accepting all of these things that I was being taught, being in a religious school, I did have some serious depression because I felt frustrated. And then there came in some health issues where I had a shoulder surgery. 2 weeks later, I went to college. Like, I should have stayed home. I should have healed. But now there's some new things going on. So I have health issues going on with my body. I can't function normally. I can no longer play volleyball, which was huge for me. I really enjoyed it. And then, I'm on new medication. So then I'm sitting in classes with muscle relaxant and like half out of it, can't pay attention to anything that's going on. Oh man, it was so frustrating. And that's kind of when the serious like anxiety and depression began, because I didn't know how to deal with my past. I didn't know how to deal with where I was. I felt a lot of anger and frustration at feeling restricted in my physical well-being, and then feeling restricted in my mental well-being, and then just not having the freedom to do some of the things that I really want to do because I was in a religious school. So that's where it kind of started. And then I started realizing, okay, there's some stuff wrong. Like I don't know what, but I know something's wrong. So when we moved here, this is when it like everything really started. I fell apart. Like, when you're like on the very edge and then you just fall over it and you lose your mind. Like, you can't think straight. You're in constant survival mode. This is when it happened. We moved here, and because we weren't able to stay in Indiana and save up for a while, we were living with Nathan's family. So we moved in with his grandfather. I love his grandfather. He's a good man, but it's very hard to be in a new place with a new husband. We hadn't even been married a year yet. Not even 6 months yet. And we were in a new place living with someone else. And then the pandemic hit, and we could no longer live with our grandfather because we didn't know how serious it was or if we were putting him at risk. So then we moved in with his brother. During the pandemic, not knowing if we were going to keep our jobs or not, having this past trauma that I didn't know how to work through, finally got myself a therapist. And that's when I started, working with her and understanding what was going on with me, and to have some answers to know, okay, I'm diagnosed with these 3 things. And now that I know what's going on with me, I feel like I can begin working through it. And that's what we've been doing. And that's where this art comes in. It's been my saving grace, because I don't know how I would process these things without art, a canvas to put it on, a way to communicate how I feel, because sometimes words just aren't enough. There's not words that can explain how you feel. All you can really do is create an image, and people see it and it makes sense. Like, you can connect through that image, because some people have different language, they have different backgrounds, they have different understanding, whatever it is. But an image, like, either you're going to get me right away, or it's going to connect to you in a personal way somehow in your past, and it's going to be helpful for you too. And so between going to therapy, she advised that I started journaling, which has not been easy, because it's not just journaling. She's talked about discovering your inner child, which Krista, you and I talked about. Learning how to play. Remember, like, I struggled with play. I struggle really hard with play to a fault. Like, it's bad. But she's teaching me, how to let that inner child out, and being able to communicate with that inner child, and allowing that inner child to come out and express what it needs from you as a safe adult. Because back then, I didn't have a safe adult. I mean, I had my parents, and I loved them dearly. Like, I don't think they did anything wrong. I think they had every good intention for me possible. But like I mentioned before, they weren't always around. They didn't always know what I was being taught or what was being put in my head. So
yeah, we don't talk about religion and what can come of that.
Mm-hmm.
And organized religion often creates trauma. I mean, there's so many parents trusting that their kids are being raised, you know, by the church in a manner that's positive. And it can be any church. All the organizations have some of their issues. When I was growing up, one of my youth pastors, almost the same situation, one of my youth pastors was having sex with underage girls, and it took 3 years for them to figure it out. Like, it took 3 years of multiple victims before anyone said anything, because women in the church don't speak up. We do what you just do what you're supposed to do. And so it's a silent, it's a place where victims are silent. It's a place where intimidation happens in the guise of love. And not to say churches are bad, just like you said, obviously, I mean, the intentions are usually good. Most people are good, but when you get one wolf, they have access to a lot of victims, and it becomes ugly very quickly. And I found Emily through her art. I actually saw a Facebook post where she had just started posting up a couple of her images, and she was like, I do this art. I just wanted to see if anybody, you know, how everybody feels about it, if anybody might be interested. She hadn't even really like put herself out there yet. And there was a particular piece, and it told my story. And I've got the book coming out, and I was just like, that has to be in the book, because there's a poem that her art piece literally just speaks the message in a way that no words could. And she understood, well, I don't know if it was intentional, but her piece understood the message of the pain that I was trying to put out in words, but the words weren't sufficient. Sometimes you need a picture. So I reached out to her, and she was just so supportive, and she was like, yes, of course, all in. And that's where we come to now. And now she's going to tell you a little bit about her amazing art and what she's doing with it.
Okay. So with the artwork, and as I mentioned before, it was kind of just the beginning of this art was just me being able to express how I was feeling and a way to cope with it. And it's kind of become something a lot deeper than that, where I feel like it's kind of crazy. I started going to therapy, and I started working through these things. And it's insane that whenever I try to discuss with friends or some family the way that I'm feeling or things that I'm learning in therapy, the response I get, not from everyone, but from some people, they're very standoffish. They're very awkward about it. They don't know how to talk to me about it, which, like, I'm not even looking for a response. Like, I'm just sharing. You asked me how my week was. Therapy is a huge part of my week. You know, we talked about this little bit here, and it really stuck with me, and it helped me a lot. And then I just kind of get this like, oh, like, it shouldn't be that awkward. It shouldn't have to be like that at all. So the whole goal behind my art is to spread awareness for mental health, because I feel like so many people, they treat it like it's this, like, it's like a plague. Like they don't even want to get close to it. They don't want to talk about it, which ironically is most likely because they have their own stuff to deal with and they don't want to do the work or acknowledge that it's there. But that's another talk and another time. So I really want to just push that, you know, it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to talk about how you're feeling, especially for men. You know, it's just crazy that, I mean, it took my husband years to be able to, like, fully open up to me about what's going on in his head. Because, you know, there's a stigma around men being men, and, like, you're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to feel this or that. And it's just such crap. It's such crap, because all you're doing is allowing that trauma to eat away at them. And then, you know, you wonder why they raise kids and the kids come out with trauma because mom and dad never freaking dealt with their own trauma, you know, and it's just a cycle for anyway. So if everyone just learned how to talk about mental health and we're willing to discuss the hard things and allow it to be normal, we would probably all be a lot better off for it. So I've started, my art company is called Roses and Tattoos. And I have my poster babe, is what I call her. She's my kind of like the face of my entire art thing. But she's just, she means a lot to me. This was one of the creations that was just like, wow, like I can really connect with this. All of her tattoos have a special meaning to them. And the point of the Roses and Tattoos name is creating beauty out of things that are painful. So you have a beautiful rose, but it doesn't come without the painful thorns on it. A tattoo, you have this beautiful piece of art on your body, but you had to deal with the needle and the blood and the pain to get that beautiful piece of art. And the whole goal for this is that I don't want to allow my trauma and the hard things that I went through and my mental health to hold me back. I don't want to allow it to take over my life anymore, because it took, 4 years of my college experience. Like, it took so much from me, all because I didn't know how to process it and I didn't know how to deal with it. And now that I'm learning that, and I'm learning that I do have control over this, and in times when I don't, I have ways that I can cope until I can get through to look back and see what was going on. For example, I used to just start cleaning, like mad woman intense cleaning. And I would go crazy. Don't talk to me. Don't get in my way. I blast music and I clean. And I told my therapist about it. I was kind of like, yeah, I just sometimes I do this and I just kind of find it weird, because when I'm done, I'm kind of like, well, what was that? It's kind of weird. But what I was doing was I was using that as a distraction, because I would have something that would trigger me and I'd have anxiety and I'd be having an anxiety attack. And I didn't know that that's what was happening to me. So I would clean to try to distract myself from from what was going on. And now when I start cleaning like a mad woman and I don't, I blare music and just start going at it, I take a moment to sit down and I'm like, okay, hold up. What's going on? Why am I doing this? So something with mental health, it's very important for you to realize your triggers and things that you're doing that aren't healthy or that are a little bit out of the usual. Usually if you sit down with yourself and you have a quiet moment to kind of think through why you might be doing what you're doing or responding the way you're responding, you're going to be able to work through things. And it's not easy. It's not things that you want particularly to work through at the time, because it brings you anxiety or you feel really upset about it. But once you do the work, it's really freeing. So anyway,
you can't hide from it forever.
Yeah, like at some point you got to come out there and you got to fight it, like, or it's going to take over your entire life and you're going to, be 65 years old looking back in your life like, what happened? Well, you spent all of it in anxiety and depression haze, and you didn't live it because you allowed this trauma to completely overtake you, And I mean, there's time and space for everything. Like Krista, we were talking about, the stages of grief. And sometimes you're going to be angry, or you're going to be sad, you're going to be anxious, you're going to be depressed. Like, all these things are healthy to go through, but it's not healthy to stay there. And it's not healthy if you're not taking steps to work through it or to talk to a therapist, whatever it is. So, but yeah, the whole point of the Roses and Tattoos is I want to take this dark path, these things that I've really struggled with, and instead of keeping them to myself and struggling with them, I want to work through them. And then I want to share with other people how I did that, or encourage them and say, dude, like, I know exactly what you're going through. I understand the dark place of depression or the anxiety where you have so many words just flying around your head that you can't even focus on a simple task in front of you, or you're irritable, whatever it is. I get it. Here's an image to show how you feel. Like, I understand. Let's connect over this and then let's talk about it. So I have a few pieces. If you're wanting to see some of them, Krista.
Absolutely. Yes, okay. Share. Please share.
Cool. So this one behind me, it's not done yet. I still have a bit to go on it, but this is a pretty good example of something that I would want to share. So with this, I have this one is anxiety. You just like pulling your hair out, and the eyes not being there, just like not being able to focus, just focusing inward. And then we have addiction there in the middle. And the struggle, because you're numbing yourself and you're trying to do everything you can to distract yourself from what's going on. In the meantime, you do realize that you're destroying your body, whether that's drugs, alcohol, medication. When I was in college, dude, I had pain medication and I had muscle relaxants for my shoulder, and I would purposely take them together so I could knock out. And that just wasn't a good way to deal with things at all. So that's kind of a big thing for me. And then this lady right here, she is self-love, loving your body, learning that your body is okay. Part of the way I grew up and the culture I grew up in, modesty was a really big thing. And I think, on a certain level, yeah, like you should be mindful of what you're doing. On the other hand, it was so preached so heavily that I began to think that my body was a problem, that I was a temptation for men, and that it was my fault. When in reality, this is how I was created. Like, I can be beautiful, and I can know that I'm beautiful. I can be confident in myself and who I am physically. And that's a big hurdle that I had to overcome. In fact, that was a few months ago. My friend Heather, she's a photographer. She did a boudoir session with me, and
Powerful. Those can be so powerful.
I cried. Like, to be able to know, like, this is okay, and I am accepted for who I am and how I am, and this is me. Like, this is a good thing. It's very powerful. So if you haven't done that before, man, like, you definitely should try one of those photo shoots, because it's very freeing, very empowering.
Do it with a female photographer, ladies.
Yes.
There are a lot of amazing male photographers out there, but if this is a healing session, if this is something you're doing because you're stressed, you're struggling, do it with another woman and let yourself be free. Because no matter what, if you do it with a male photographer, you will have that restraint. You will have that sense of judgment. So please do a session and find an amazing, beautiful woman who understands that it's something new for you and who understands that it's a way to release those burdens. There are so many photographers I've seen with beautiful websites that talk about that. They know the journey. They've been there with you. Mm-hmm. And find the right person. You will have a beautiful experience.
Yes. Good advice. Definitely.
Hey, I think I might know a photographer.
I do that. Yep. I'm also advertising the bell for you all today. So this one I have is depression. Having to take pills to help my brain. It frustrates me. Like, I would love nothing more than just to feel normal and be normal. And then, having people tell you, oh, well, just be happy. Like, why are you sad all the time? Like, it's a choice. I'm like, it's not a choice. Okay. There are chemicals in your brain. Maybe do a little research yourself and use yours before you be rude and tell people that it's a choice. Okay. Sometimes it's just not a choice. The only thing that's a choice is if you choose to work through the trauma or not work through the trauma. You can't decide how you feel during it. Oh, that gets me heated. But having to take medication and then, being dropped and kind of in that depression. This is complacency, or maybe feeling numb, where you just don't have, you just can't deal. This one might be a very tender subject for some people, but this would be sexual assault. I have had many friends in the background that I grew up in, like you were talking about, knowing some youth pastors or staff members or people at church, whatever it is, abusing young ladies. And some young men too, but most of my friends that I have were young women that were abused. And that's something that is very near and dear to my heart. To hear those people out and to represent that also in my artwork, because it's a difficult topic, and for people to know that someone understands or that someone cares and that they see them is a big deal. And then the hand up there is just, reaching out for help. So that's one piece that kind of has all of those different mixed feelings, and they all flow together. And there's, this despair and the black place of the canvas. But ironically, being, trying to create beauty out of painful things, I have these bright, beautiful, fun colors. And it's kind of like a play on it, because, you can't allow these things to keep hold of you forever. I have this piece that's it's like when you're having those anxiety attacks and you just can't handle it. You're just pulling at your head, This one here was done in a pretty dark place for me. Fear of the unknown, fear of yourself. I have this one. This one is a pretty big deal for me as well. This one is wearing emotional armor. So when you decide to armor yourself and protect yourself, you're actually really harming yourself, because if you can't speak to a trusted person or a therapist about what's going on with you, and you decide to armor up, because you're armoring up because you want to defend yourself, right? You're scared of what's people are going to say to you, or because of past things that have happened to you, you don't want to open up, and you put on this armor. And in the end, it's weighing you down. It's not healthy for you. You need to go to a therapist or find a trusted friend that's wise and knows what they're talking about, and discuss what's happening, and take all that armor off so you can be free and you can actually do the things you want in life.
It keeps everything out, but it also keeps everything in.
Yes, exactly. This one was done. I was thinking about that session that I did, and finding my power and who I am, and then just in general getting my confidence and deciding who I am, because for a long time I didn't know who I was, and now I get to make that choice. So this is just kind of like that, taking pride in who I am, and that it's okay. It's okay to take pride in who you are. I was always taught that wasn't okay. You should always be humble and don't talk about yourself highly. And obviously you don't have to be like a jerk and be like, oh yeah, I'm so much better than you. But take some pride in yourself, see your accomplishments and share them. It's okay to tell family and friends great things that are happening in your life. This one is a tender subject as well. I survived. This one, this is the biggest reason that I want to share concern about mental health and raise awareness for it, is because, we have lost a lot of people. And when we can't talk about mental health, they can't talk about it either. And I feel like it's vital. It's literally life-saving to be able to make discussing mental health normal. I've had lots of friends. I've had people that have just struggled, that have attempted suicide or that have committed suicide. And it's not an easy thing to talk about. It's not an easy thing to admit to. But imagine if we all actually discussed mental health and we were able to tell each other, man, I'm really struggling. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't know how to handle this. But so many people, they can't share that because no one around them is listening and no one around them knows how to handle that. And I think it's important that we school ourselves and we learn how to handle it for ourselves or for people around us. So yeah, that one's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of these things, but I think I'll close with this one, I think. But this one is finding my inner peace. Finally coming to that point where I can like let some of this stuff go. A lot of my images, if you look through my social media or my website, whatever it is, you'll see that there's a lot of dark things. There's a lot of intense drawings and things that, you know, you can tell is uncomfortable. But this is one of the first drawings that I've done that I truly felt that inner peace and I wanted to share it. And I feel like I'm finally beginning to find that healing. And that's something that I've not felt in a very long time. So this one is very special to me because it is probably like one of the first pieces in years that I've done that's actually beautiful and happy and not like struggling. But a lot of my art is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. I want you to feel uncomfortable because I want you to see that in others' brains how uncomfortable they are in their own head. So if you're uncomfortable, imagine how I'm feeling or how that person who has PTSD is feeling. You wouldn't want that going on in your head, then maybe you should learn how to talk about it and we can all have a conversation. You know, like that's a big thing for me. So now you're going to see my website, you're going to be a little uncomfortable sometimes. But that's the whole point, is for us to get out of our comfort zone, learn about mental health, and learn how to help each other through hard things.
Make it so that when someone tells you that they're seeing a therapist, you don't cringe. You don't like, well, what's wrong with you? Or you seem okay to me. The things that come out of people's mouths are so like, when someone reveals to you an intimate detail, like I'm seeing a therapist, they want you to say, oh, that's awesome. Do you like her? Or
yes.
Or what are you learning? Or is it helping?
Yes.
Something encouraging, not, wow, what's wrong with you? Or I thought you were okay. You seem to be okay to me.
Yep.
Those are not proper answers.
No, not at all. Yeah, that's not helpful to anyone. Yeah, I definitely think that there needs to be a bit of conversation about this. Because there are so many people that just don't know how to handle the conversation. And it sucks when it's like your family and friends because they're the closest people to you. And you want nothing more than to share either the pain that you're going through so you don't have to bear it alone, or to share your progress because you're excited about what you're doing.
Right? Celebrating the small stuff, it matters so much. And if you're the only one who's like, wait, I actually had an entire day. I had an entire good day. And you say that to someone and they look at you like, what do you mean you had a good day? Like, so what? It's like, okay, you don't understand. Listen to what I'm saying, but listen to what's underneath what I'm saying. If I come to you and say, oh my God, I had an entire good day, hear that for what it is. If you're paying attention, it's obvious that that means something. So noticing more about a person when they speak than just the surface stuff. Listen with your whole body.
Yes.
And you will connect with people in a way that's actually helpful, in a way that matters, and you will both get something out of it. So when you hear something like that and you connect to someone and you support them in a positive, healthy way and say, I'm so proud of you, damn.
Yes.
Or whatever, just celebrate. No matter what they're saying, whether it means anything to you or not, celebrate with them when they're bringing something to you in a way that says, I'm celebrating it. It doesn't have to matter to you. It doesn't have to have value to you. You don't have to think it's a good enough reason to be celebrating.
Yes.
Just celebrate that person and it'll change the world. Literally, small things. You can change the world for people by listening and noticing and giving a response that works with what they're saying.
Yes. Yep. And I think even being able to, if you don't know how to respond, if someone is like, I actually had my first good day today, and you're like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand. Instead of being like, okay, and like brushing it off, maybe ask some questions. Ask some generalized, kind questions. Okay, you said you had a really good day. Like, what does that mean for you? I don't fully understand what you're talking about because I don't have the same struggles. Can you tell me more about that? Then you're showing interest and you're learning from them. They can open up to you and tell you. And I think that's something too, that not only listen, but maybe be a little more proactive. Maybe ask some questions. If you don't understand, ask and talk about it, or, research it. There's, everything's on YouTube. Maybe go find it. Like, I don't know. Like, come on. So I think there's definitely, there's definitely ways to be able to have a conversation where you can encourage and understand what they're, ask questions and understand what they're talking about.
Yep. Stop being afraid. Stop being afraid to admit that you have sought help, or that you have needed help, or that you have struggles of your own. Stop being afraid to talk to people who are struggling, because you can't just hide it behind, like, and you leave them and you don't check up on them and you don't say anything about it. You just expect that everything's going to be okay. It's just going to disappear if we don't talk about it. That's not the way this stuff works. This stuff only heals when you bring it out into the light. This stuff only heals when you open the wounds and intentionally do the work to heal it. It takes time, it takes energy and effort. And every single person going through it, no matter what the trauma is, we all suffer the same. We all feel pain the same. If we don't support that work, if we don't create a network around that person that lifts them up, we're dragging them down.
Yes.
So I love her message. I love her work. And I feel like big things are going to happen. I think big things are going to happen for you. So tell everybody how they can find your work, your page, and see what you're up to, or hire you as a photographer if they happen to be local.
Okay. Well, for the art aspect of things, my website is rosesandtattoos.com. My Facebook, Instagram, it's roses, the letter N, Roses and Tattoos. I'm on both. And then for photography, it's mylionmedia.com for anyone local. And on the art website, I've started doing blogs. I have, I think, like 3 up right now, but they kind of go a little bit deeper into why I created some of this art or the meaning behind some of these pieces. And I do release those, and I do put them out on my social media. So if you're a little more, if you're curious about some of the stories behind these, I will be doing blogs weekly and putting them out there for you guys to maybe share or learn, or and of course, if you do find me through the website or on social media, if you're ever struggling, I'm not a therapist, like I'm not, but I do know how hard it can be to deal with the mental health aspect, and sometimes just feeling upset and not having anyone to go to. I'm always open for conversation. I can help where I can, and if I don't know how to help, I have some awesome people that I can connect you to get you some help, because I don't think that anyone should have to go through these things on their own. It's not how we were created. So, yeah.
Don't underestimate the power of peer support.
It's huge. I think of it like, you're talking about how to be able to truly heal, you have to open up that wound, and you have to like work through the trauma to be able to heal. I feel like it's like you open up that wound to start healing, and you're working in there, and you have to get like infection out, or you have to get like shrapnel out. And it's a constant battle to try to keep yourself alive, because while you're opening this wound and you're doing the work to heal the trauma, sometimes you start bleeding out and it's too much for you to handle. And I feel like when I have a friend or a family member that comes to me and said, hey, I know you're having a hard day, but I love you and I'm here for you. Do you want to talk about anything? Or I open up and I share, even if it's good news. Like the other week, I went from a 19 on like, people do that like numbers thing when you go to the doctor about like how depressed and anxiety riddled and crazy you are. I went from like a 19 to a 7. And it was like the biggest deal for me. Like it was huge. And like I share it with some people and they were like, yay, like super awkward and weird about it. I was like, there's nothing, like I'm telling you this is a good thing right now, you know? But when I have those people that are like, oh man, you went from 19 to a 7, like that's incredible. I mean, I'm so proud of you. You're doing your work and you're going to therapy, and man, I'm so happy. That's like they're giving me a steroid shot so I can make it a little while longer while I'm doing surgery on myself. Or it's like they're putting a bandage to my surgery and helping stop that bleeding so I don't feel like I'm hemorrhaging and I'm on my own and I'm like trying to fight this all by myself. To have those people that can be there for you, it's literally life-saving. So there's that little thought there.
None of us like to be alone. Our biggest core need is usually acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the exact same thing. You want other people to see you. You want other people to appreciate you. You want other people to understand you. And you want to stand on common ground with people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you feel alone. And yeah, that's the worst thing for human beings. It's terrible for everyone to be alone. But imagine feeling like you're drowning and no one's there to save you. Imagine feeling like you're in the darkness and you can't see anything and no one is anywhere. You hear nothing. All you need is a little light. All you need is some direction. All you need is a little bit of, you can do it. Just take a few more steps. So your support, your kindness, and your listening, actually listening, can be the difference between life and death. Mm-hmm. And we've had these conversations about suicide. So I know this is not something that we haven't told you guys a million times over in a million different ways, but just don't forget that you are valuable and you do matter in the lives of the people around you.
Yep.
So this is a very, very important conversation, and I'm so, so thankful to have had you here tonight. And you guys will probably see Emily out with me at some point at some of the events that I do live around here, because she is really, really, her heart is in this cause. So we're going to probably do some work together in the future, and go on her website, follow her art, follow her journey. I've already, just in the short time that I've known her, seen some changes in her work. So as time progresses, you're going to see all kinds of new things coming out from her. She also writes. Mm-hmm. So she's just expressive in every possible way. And she's relatively new to this area. So, she could use all kinds of supporters and love, support hers. Oh my God, I have a new word.
I love it.
She needs some support hers.
Yes.
We'll go with that.
Yes.
So again, we're just getting ready to sign off because we're running out of time here tonight. But thank you so much for listening to our show, and track Emily down because you will love her. So thank you so much, everyone. And Battle2be, Krista Fee, signing off.